as we get closer and closer to the end of October, and the creepy vibes fill the atmosphere, I felt it was time to finally listen to an album that has absolutely nothing to do with Halloween, but whatever, here we are. I'm excited to listen to the brand new album from OneRepublic, Human.
I ain't gonna keep my distance from you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another album review / reaction here on... Oh, that's right. Hold on. I forgot you can't see me. Hold on one second. Let me fix that. Hello. Like I said in the intro, I am totally feeling the Halloween spirit. So if you're here watching my channel for the first time, normally I'm not really this weird. I am pretty weird, but I just love all these stupid little silly effects and things. I've never actually tried anything like this before, so hopefully everything I've done so far has worked. But it's kind of fun to think that, the whole video editing world is out there that I can, use. I have everything at my fingertips, I could maybe try to make lasers shoot out of my eyes or even maybe cut the top of my head off. Nobody wants that. So anyway, like I said, why we are here to go over the brand new OneRepublic album. I have been waiting for this album forever, and I am so excited to finally get to it. If you've never seen a video on my channel before and you're curious how this is going to work, though, basically what I'm going to do is just listen to the album from front to back for the very first time while giving you all my thoughts in real time. In my last few videos on my channel, I've gotten some nice feedback, I think, from people who have been telling me that I talk a little bit too much and don't pay as much attention to the music, which I definitely think is a valid criticism and definitely is true. It's so hard to appreciate an album fully the very first time you hear it in the first place, let alone if I'm trying to do, a reaction like I'm doing for this video. It is tough to kind of get all the, the everything out of the song the very first time I'm listening to it. So with that in mind, I'm going to try not to talk as much this particular video, see how that goes, and hopefully people enjoy that as more. Also, I want to mention I will not be including any actual audio from the CD or from the album itself in this video. So in the description of this video, I will include a link so that you can listen along with me on Spotify, which I highly recommend you do. If you have your own copy of the album, you can go ahead and listen to it that way, whatever. But I will tell you exactly when we're starting the album, and I have yet to do a video like this where I stop in the middle of an album or in the middle of a song to talk about something. I generally just talk, over the songs and just listen the whole time, basically like we're friends sitting around, a table or something, listening to the album together for the first time. So with that in mind, also in the description of the video, there will be timestamps to all the different sections. Generally, I tend to talk about a band a little bit beforehand, then listen to the album, and then afterwards I do my sort of album overall thoughts, my overview of the album, if you will, sort of my review. And so if you want to skip everything and just get to that, please feel free to do that. You can go to this timestamp right here, or like I said, I have timestamps in the description of the video to all the different relevant sections, including each individual track off of this album. If you have a favorite track you want to specifically go to and see my reaction to or hear my thoughts on, feel free to skip all over the video. But regardless, whatever you decide to watch, thank you very much for being here. So with all that in mind, I want to say, like I said, I'm very excited for this. I have been waiting for this album for quite a while. I do have, for reference, I'm very excited. I'm glad I thought to look this up online, but I did get the Target exclusive version that has 18 tracks on it. So I believe the regular version of the album has 12 or maybe 13 songs on it, and this album has 5 or 6 bonus songs. So I'm very excited for that. I will be listening through the entire thing. So, kind of like I said, I am very excited for this because I enjoy OneRepublic. If you are someone that has seen other videos on my channel before, you'll know that I enjoy listening to metal, I enjoy listening to all sorts of things, but I haven't really done basically like what I consider to be sort of a pop band on my channel yet. And that's because there's not a ton of bands like this out there that I do really enjoy. And I fell in love with OneRepublic back in, gosh, it must have been It was when Counting Stars first came out, which this album came out in 2013. So I'm guessing it was probably 2013, maybe even 2014. But the CD player in my car, in my vehicle, went out, and I was forced basically to listen to the radio for almost like 2 months. And that was right when Counting Stars was at the absolute height of its popularity. And at first I didn't think too much of the song, but after being forced to listen to it multiple times while I was driving around, I kind of started to warm up to it a little bit, to the point where I thought, you know what? I am going to get this album. And so I went out and purchased the album, and that was, of course, Native. I went out and purchased this album, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I thought that it was great. I do think, one of the weird things about it, though, is Counting Stars is the first track on Native. And if you listen to the song on the radio, you know that there were basically 4 bars of acoustic strumming guitar before the song started. And on the album version of the song, I know they did release a deluxe copy of this later, but that was, I just got it when it came out, that year before they released the deluxe edition. But the album version of Counting Stars starts right away with basically some acoustic guitar and the vocal immediately coming in there. Those 2 or 4 bars of buildup are not on the album. So that's really something interesting I wanted to point out. But anyway, I fell in love with this album, and I really didn't know who OneRepublic was before that. Of course, I had heard the song "It's Too Late to Apologize," which I never really cared for very much. And to this day, that's, of all OneRepublic's singles, that's definitely not one of my favorites. But I had heard "All the Right Friends in All the Right Places Say Yeah, We're Going Down." Loved that song. So I was familiar with them. I just didn't really know who they were. And so when I fell in love with Native and got the album, I did a little bit of research, found out who Ryan Tedder was and how he basically writes pop songs for all these very famous artists, very famous songs. And he basically is a really, really cool pop music producer. And I really like that aspect of this band. Regardless of what the songs are going to sound like, that it's going to be professional, well-written, and it's going to sound great. And on my channel, I tend to focus a lot more on the music production side of things, the specific soundscape that you're hearing, the different sounds that the band or artist chose to use, why they chose to put those sounds with other sounds, how to get the overall tone, the atmosphere of songs, things like that. Even within individual songs as well. That's kind of the kind of thing that I tend to focus on my channel. I do not listen to lyrics very much, so if you're here expecting me to listen to some deeply heartfelt, meaningful lyrics, that's probably not something I'm going to be paying attention to. However, I do enjoy a lot of OneRepublic's lyrics. So then, of course, I went back in their catalog and bought their 2 albums that had come out before that. Their very first one, which is my least favorite of their albums, Dreaming Out Loud. I am not a big fan of this album, though. To be fair, I haven't really given it its fair shake, I don't think. I've listened to it all the way through a couple times, but it really didn't grab me. I do remember at the time, what was their song that was like, "Stop and Stare, something moving, but we don't know," whatever. Like, I remember that song being kind of interesting and enjoying that song, but I think this is the one that has "Apologize" on it, yeah, and then just not my favorite of their albums. And then, of course, Waking Up, which has the Secret song on it, All the Right Moves that I was talking about. One of my favorite songs, Everybody Loves Me, from them is on here. I love that. So I really enjoyed this album a lot more than their first one. And I think that what happened was, basically with each album, I feel like they've gotten a little bit further away from having that sort of band sound with guitar, drums, bass, vocals as sort of like the core of the song. They've gotten away from that a little bit more with each subsequent album, all the way up into Oh My My, which is my favorite album of theirs that has been released thus far. I'm hoping Human can top it. But what I really like actually about all of it, and I've kind of alluded to this already, is that there's just this incredible diversity here between all of their songs, all of their albums that I really, really, really enjoy. The few pop bands, pop music sort of artists that I really like a lot are the ones that are very versatile, but that also just write really good songs at the core of the albums. And so, like, for example, I really enjoy Imagine Dragons. I know that they were very, very played out for quite a while, and they got to be so massively popular that people are kind of over them at this point, but I really like their positive message. I love the drum editing on all of their stuff. I think they took a huge, massive risk with their second album, and I really enjoy it when bands do that. Another band like this that I really enjoy a lot, that a lot fewer people know, is a band from England called Hertz. I really, really enjoy them, and so if you like OneRepublic, I want to recommend Hertz to you, and I really recommend you look up their album Exile. That's one of my favorite albums of theirs, but really any of their albums are really, really, really good, so recommend that. If you've never heard of the band Hertz, that's Hurts, Hertz. But back to OneRepublic. Like I said, I feel like they've gotten a little bit more sort of poppy electronic as they've gone through their career here on their 4 albums. And that leads us all the way up to Oh My My, which I said is my favorite album of their discography, and I think is my favorite album of theirs for a few reasons, but I think one of the main reasons is it is so full. It's just as a very meaty, full album, and that's really interesting. I do have the deluxe edition of this album, and the thing that's really interesting to me on almost all of the OneRepublic albums is I don't really care for the first 3 or 4 songs on their album usually, and I know that's kind of weird, especially since Counting Stars is the first track on Native, which I told you I love. But usually, for the most part, on their albums I have heard thus far, the first few tracks are ones that I don't really care for. And in the case of Oh My My, I have the deluxe edition, like I said. So the deluxe edition has 20 full-length songs on here. 2 of them, one of them is an acoustic version, one of them is a strings version. But basically 20 full-length songs on here. And actually, it's interesting. I was listening to this earlier today, and I really think the first song on this album that I enjoy a lot is track 6, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, track 7. Which is the song AI featuring Peter Gabriel. That, to me, is when this album really gets going, and it literally never slows down to the very end. I like every song from track 7 on. So even though I don't really care, and I do enjoy the first 7 songs, I should say that, to me, they're not the best songs on the album. They're kind of the weaker. The beginning of the album is much weaker than the middle and the back half. But when you have an album of 20 songs and the first 7 are disappointing, but the 13 that come after it are fantastic, it's still basically a full album's worth of fantastic songs. Plus you have these added bonus songs at the beginning that as I said, I don't dislike them. I just don't like them as much. But one thing that I didn't care very much about this album, and now I'm getting into sort of my expectations for Human, but one of the things I didn't care for very much on Oh My My was the really the incredible overuse of autotune. And it was done to the point where it was obvious that it was intentional and that it was meant to be used as an effect. And that's cool. I don't generally care if autotune is used on a track. I don't think that means that a person can't sing or that they, are somehow less of a performer because they use autotune. I do think that for a lot of artists it can become a crutch, but I do not think that's the case with OneRepublic. They have 3 albums before that where you can tell they used autotune here and there, but almost the entirety of the vocals on Oh My My were just saturated in autotune to the point where you could tell it was there almost constantly. And, that was an interesting choice, and I wish it wouldn't have done that. However, I think that that's one of the things that sort of gives the album its character. The other thing is that I do not think that there is one instance, maybe there's a couple instances, but of the 20 songs, there is almost no guitar on this album whatsoever. Almost no guitar. Their previous albums, I think their first album has the most guitar, and then their second album has a little bit less, third a little less, and then when we get to Oh My My, I don't think there's really almost no discernible guitar whatsoever. Certainly no crunchy rock guitar really at all. Maybe a few sort of like more sparse, parts that are meant to be like, almost more of an effect rather than a guitar, but using your guitar to get some sort of like a cool ominous effect or something for background tones. But really almost no discernible guitar playing whatsoever. Also, I don't think that there's a song on there that has real sounding drums at all, like an acoustic drum kit set up in a studio, mic'd, recorded, and, drums that actually sound like a real drum set. I don't really think that's present on the album at all. And I think that that's okay. With what OneRepublic has sort of set up to be their thing over their 4 albums so far, it's very poppy. It's very electronic. It is what modern music is at that moment. And I think that they're really good about doing that. And obviously, I think that all comes down, for the most part, to Ryan and the fact that he has his finger on the pulse of the pop music, genre always. Now, I do know that all the other members of the band contribute a lot, and I am really expecting, well, I guess I shouldn't say I'm expecting, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm kind of hoping that Human comes back to the sort of band sound. It's interesting to think about the music that is popular right now, like Billie Eilish and even like Lorde from a few years ago. Really sparse song arrangements with basically just a drum beat and someone singing over it, but with still lots of atmosphere, or even things like Halsey, where she doesn't have a lot of musical elements in her music, but there is a lot of like things happening, but it's all like sound effects and bleeps and bloops and percussive elements and things, and not necessarily a melodic musical element. It's mostly just rhythmic stuff with vocals over the top, and then maybe some synth bass or something. So I'm interested to see what the arrangements on this are going to be. Now, I do want to point out, I did open the CD and read the booklet earlier. Actually, I read it yesterday when I was sort of getting ready mentally for this video. Well, first of all, I love the cover. Absolutely love the cover. I love their logo, which I really enjoy the fact that they sort of switch up their logo for each of their albums. I think that that really says a lot about them, and the fact that they try to change up what they're doing basically for each album. But I know a lot of people don't get physical copies of albums anymore, especially not CD. A lot of people get vinyl, but if you weren't lucky enough to get a physical copy of this, I want to just take a second and stop my table from squeaking. Hold on one sec. Whoops, hit the mic too. I want to just take a sec and read what it says in here. So this is the first page. It says, "For centuries we have searched for meaning. We have built, we have destroyed, we have conquered. We have succumbed to man's brutality inspired by fear. But our internal mechanism has been designed to be propelled by hope. We count our fears at night, praying, hoping that they will push us further and faster to a utopia we cannot quite perceive. We forget what we are made of, the inception in which we are able to have life, the collaboration of the innumerable factors that brought us into being. We are as much a miracle as the rising and setting sun, as the balance that is our solar system and our universe, as the air and earthly dynamic that sustains us. Look for the light and you will find you are not alone. We are perfectly sculpted and we are perfectly flawed, cracks and all. We are in desperate need of one another, with a desperate desire to belong. We love, we live, we hope, we persevere. And that is because we are beautifully human." That's very, 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 very cool sentiment, and also very positive. Something that you don't hear from a lot of music nowadays, and also very hopeful. Like it even says in there, hopeful. And that's kind of one of the things I wanted to mention before we get into the album, is that one of the aspects of OneRepublic that I really do enjoy is that there are a few members of the band that are people of faith. They thank God in their liner notes, and on almost every one of their albums, they have a song that sort of indicates that they are people of faith, and I really enjoy that aspect of them. I think that that's a brave thing to show in today's society and the culture we currently live in, and I really find that to be sort of inspiring. Another thing that's interesting about the liner notes is that I first opened the booklet and I was looking through it and I was like, oh, they have each of the songs and the lyrics in here. As you can see right from the page there. Oh, I was like, oh, they have all the lyrics in there. Nope, these are not the lyrics. These are actually the credits for each individual song. Because when you know you're getting a OneRepublic album, you know every song is going to be chock full of additional producers, all sorts of musicians, all sorts of things, possibly samples, all sorts of different things. So that's what the liner notes do not contain the lyrics, just the credits for each song. However, I want to read one more thing before we get into the album, and then I promise we will get there. Well, actually, two things. I want to read the thank you from Ryan, and I want to read the thank you from the band as well. First, here's the thank you from the band. It says, "We all grew up playing and listening to music. It kept us engaged in the world, and the world made more sense because of it. So we decided to make music for ourselves and for anyone who would listen, as we quickly realized this career involved much more than just making music. This career makes demands that we cannot meet on our own, and so we must thank the endless amounts of people who support us and who come to our assistance. To our families, crew, management, label, agency, financial management, legal, professional, equipment, teleportation, philanthropy, friends, fans, both spirit and human, personal and impersonal, local and global, we thank all of you sincerely. We are because you are. We succeed because you choose to invest in us. The music lives because you think it's worth supporting. We love because you love. We thrive because you have fed us. Thank you." And first of all, I think that that's absolutely great. I'm one of those people that reads liner notes in every album that I get, which is many, many, many CDs. And I have to say that the thank yous in this album are probably the best I've ever read. And they don't have to word things the way that they do, but they did. And I really, really appreciate that. This whole thing, this whole booklet is giving me a vibe of sort of like hope. So I'm wondering if that's going to bleed into the songs and if we're going to get a more hopeful, sort of happy sounding album. I do think Oh My was pretty happy. There was a lot of positive stuff on that album. There were also some sadder moments or some more mournful moments, and I really enjoy those because I am the kind of person that tends to lead towards the more moody styles of music. But the hopefulness and the happiness that's infused in here, I really, really enjoy. So the last thing I want to read is Ryan's thank you. And this is something that I love because it actually told me a lot that I didn't know, not being the kind of person that like follows bands online on their Instagram or Twitter or anything like that. So this is what Ryan wrote in his thank you section. He said, "I'd like to thank our fans around the world for being so incredibly beyond patient with us. I hit a physical, emotional, mental wall by the end of 2016, 2017, which, if you recall, is when Oh My was coming out. And there are several songs on here that are about the feeling of being overwhelmed or not being able to sleep or having all this noise in your head, things like that. But he says, I'd like to thank our fans. I hit a physical, emotional, mental wall by the end of 2016, 2017, and didn't really recover and have the inspiration or motivation to write more songs with and for this band for over 2 years. So that would put us till about 2019. I was burnt out doing music with OneRepublic. Okay, it says I was burnt out. Doing music with OneRepublic has never been, nor was ever about, trying to write hits. That's my other day job, him being a pop music writer. OneRepublic songs have always had to come from personal experience, living life, needing to say something, and to say it in a way that only we could say it or feel it. The blessing and the curse of this band is that I can't just sit down and make it happen. It has to fall from the sky and feel almost accidental. We launched in 2007, and before we knew it, I had been gone from home 70% of a decade, away from my family, wife, and kids, and friends. Thank you for letting me have the time off to find my motivation again, and to finally start to have things to say. I get sick of hearing myself, and I never want to just reread the same topics. This album is a very us record sonically, which maybe leads me to think that the band is going to be a little bit more present. We hope you love it as much as we do, and we hope that the album that comes after this, you let us evolve and experiment some and switch it up a bit. So that kind of tells me, well, I'll get to that in a second. Life is about evolution and inspiration. Let's keep them both alive, live some life, get out there, and make some stories together. And then he says, "Thank you, God, for the life that you've given me and the gift of music. Thank you to my wife and kids for putting up with me and letting me be crazy, but keeping me grounded. Blah, 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 Live Nation, blah, 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 see you soon, world," it says basically. So a couple things about that. First thing, he says that this is a very us album, meaning a very band album. So I don't know how this album was written. If it was written in 2019 and completed, and then, or even by the beginning of 2020 and completed, and then the coronavirus pandemic happened and it got pushed a year and a half almost out, then I'm going to assume this album has been done since then. So I'm going to assume that everything was written before the pandemic, which means they could have all been together or all at their own studios recording with different producers, people all over the world. And again, that some of that information's in here in the individual song credits. But what I'm going to guess before I listen to this album is that this album is going to sound more like a band, more acoustic drums, bass, guitar, vocals, based with all sorts of cool production stuff wrapped around all that. I will not be shocked if it's basically an electronic album, which is what Oh My My was, but I'm going to expect it to be a little bit more band sounding. But then he has that specific line in there that was very interesting to me. It says, "This album is a very us record sonically. We hope you love it as much as we do, and we hope that the album that comes after this, you let us evolve and experiment some and switch it up a bit." So that means he was already at the point when the liner notes were written for this, the album was done, and they were already looking forward to the next thing they were going to do. So that's exciting to me. And I don't know what that means. Does that mean that this album is an electronic album and they're going to switch it up and go back to the band sound on their next album? Or is this a band album and they're going to go to more electronic? Or do they want to maybe even make a bit of a heavier album, more of like a rock album or something? It's very intriguing, whatever it means, and it gets me very excited for it. But I've done now what I didn't want to do, which is talk a ton beforehand. So without further ado, let's get to listening to the album. All right. Oh, here we go. Very excited for this. I'll keep the book out just in case I want to look at any specific note in the credits. But track 1, Run. Oh, hold on. I'm going to check my headphones. Make sure that I got the settings correct. I do. All right. All right, here we go. Track 1 right now. I have heard nothing from this, by the way. I've heard not a peep, not a single, nothing. Okay, electronic, but it did start with guitar. Okay, what do we got here? Written by Ryan Tedder, Brent Kutzel, Tyler Spry, and John Nathaniel, which I believe are members of the band. Mama. Run, run, run. So in the first song, he's already mentioned the good Lord. Interesting. Okay. Had a little bit of a snare sound in there, but now we're to claps. Okay, the auto-tune is definitely still there. Very present. That whoop in the background, that's a very modern music thing. Very cool. Whistle. I feel like that's definitely one of the things Ryan is very, very good at, writing catchy little melodies, whether they're vocal melodies or musical melody parts. He's very good at that, and then incorporating those melodies into the song and then playing with those melodies for the different parts of the song too. That whoop again. So this song is reminding me a little bit of much more sonically of Native than it is Oh My My. Another thing I was going to mention about Oh My My is that it is an incredibly dynamic album, and I feel like that was a very risky thing for them to do at the time. There are very quiet moments and there are very loud moments on that album, and nothing really ever gets heavy, but there's loud moments and quiet moments, and not every modern pop album has that. A lot of modern albums are mixed so that it's much more compressed in a good way to have everything be at a consistent level. I'm not one of those people that just hates things that are compressed. I think compression is great, and if you have a song that's not very dynamic, if the song didn't need to be dynamic, then it can still be mixed perfectly well and not be very dynamic. Okay, so that's track 1 down. Track 2, Distance. Love that sort of distorted snare hit there. Ooh. Ooh, that bass sound. That, like, just a synth electronic bass sound. Very, very pure bass tone, but really nice. There's some reverb, some like cavernous reverb on different things, which is giving this, it gives this song a bit of a space to live in, because ooh, very cool. Oh, very cool. See, they're using that note. It's sung a little bit longer than would be necessary, and it's a little bit higher than usual than the rest of the vocals, so it stands out. And it really makes it a special little thing that this song has. Love that. But what I was going to say is that the reverb that's there is sort of a cavernous, low-frequency reverb. It's not very sprinkly or sparkly like 80s reverb would be with a lot of high frequencies in the reverb. The reverb is low-passed, but what it does is it gives the song... It almost feels like you're sitting in a cavernous room listening to the sounds, because you know the sounds that were used to create a lot of this were totally dry electronic sounds that were created synthetically. So there's no reverb on them whatsoever. So the mixing of the album is helping to create the sort of atmosphere and overall setting, if you will, for the song. One other thing that I was going to talk about, which I'm sure I will bring up, is the structuring of the songs. I want the songs to be structured like pop songs. I don't want the songs to feel too short. That first song was 2 minutes 40, and I think that they went through the chorus 3 times, but I really want them to go back to parts of the songs that have happened. The last few albums I've done reactions to, they have not done that. I am just shocked at how many artists nowadays make songs that don't have repeating parts in them, which is something that I don't care for very much. But if you want to hear me talk about that at length, you can listen to the last 3 or 4 album reactions I've done on my channel. Spirit Box specifically, I talked about that quite a bit, so I recommend looking that up if you're interested in my thoughts on that. So we're definitely getting some drum fills and cymbal crashes, which I know might sound ridiculous to point out and say, hey, there's drum fills and cymbal crashes in this song. But that's not necessarily something that would have to be there. Okay, track 3. Acoustic guitar. This is Someday. So far, I would say both songs have had a hopeful feeling to them. Kind of uplifting. But OneRepublic doesn't really make downer songs that much. Cool. That pitch shifted lower vocal part there is neat. Again, just saturated with auto-tune. So So now 2 albums of this, I am questioning whether or not Ryan can actually sing really good. Or maybe I'm sure he can actually sing really good. But maybe since he's the one in charge of a lot of this, maybe he feels self-conscious about his vocals and wants to throw the autotune on there and use it as an effect, and that he's kind of using it to hide behind. But I'm going to not believe that. I think that it's a specifically calculated choice. It's a specific calculated choice. Definitely very hopeful sounding. Now, I did notice some of the songs when I was reading the credits for the individual songs, some of them do have some string musicians on them, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Oh My My had, I think, 2 ballads on it. One of them was a really cool, almost trip-hop sounding song that had some different sort of synthetic elements creating the atmosphere of the song, and then some drums came in. I really enjoyed that. I would like some more stuff like that. See, I'm hearing shaker in this, and that could be a real shaker as opposed to just a sample of a shaker. It's hard to make music with completely all synthetic elements and still have it feel like there's a human element to it. And this definitely feels like a human element. And it's just, so far, I think all the 3 of the songs have been just that sort of 4 to the floor beat. Sounds like an electronic kick in each of the songs. I'm getting Counting Stars vibes from this song as well. So definitely more like Native than Oh My My. But a little different so far. And again, like I said... Okay, that's the end of track 3. Track 4. Didn't I? The repeating words is nice. That's also more of a sort of a more modern trend. His voice sounds a little bit lower in volume here. Nice vocal overdub that's panned right and left at the same time, so it feels wider. Ooh, love it's almost like a little bit of a trap beat here. One thing I was going to mention, like I said, I mentioned Billie Eilish earlier. If this album was completed at the end of 2019 or the very beginning of 2020, when was Billie Eilish's first song? Was it late 2019? Or was it last year? I feel like it was last year, but last year kind of is just one giant blur. But what I was getting at was, if Billie Eilish hadn't had her massive hit song that has definitely influenced current music, then maybe there would be no influence from that, the sort of more simplistic stuff like I was talking about on this album, because this album was made before that, even though it's coming out now way after. A lot of background vocals there. I feel like all the vocals have a lot of effects on them, which is pretty par the course for OneRepublic. Love the beat. It's a heavy beat. And Oh My My was a lot more reserved, I feel like. There weren't really any moments where it exploded with energy or with these big, massive sounds. So it's nice to get that a little bit here. This album's going to move fast. I don't think we've had a song yet that was over 3 minutes long. But so far, everything's feeling Oh, good. This one will be over 3. So far, I haven't felt like any of the songs have been too short. A lot of background, like, with a lot of very wet sounding reverb on it. Not a lot of the core source sound in it. That's, again, another modern trend. That's something that Imagine Dragons would do. That's something that Hertz would do. Something that any modern pop song can have all sorts of shouts and things like that in the background. Okay, track 5 right now. Ooh, much more intimate sounding vocal. Dry. And I believe that's an electric guitar doing the core of the music there. Okay, that low synth bass. Now this is, again, just a pure bass tone, but it's got a little bit of oscillation to it. It's pretty fast vocal rhythm. So I'm thinking this might actually turn into a bit of a fast song. A lot of vocal overdubs coming in to make the song feel like it's building. Some frequencies there. Oh, okay, totally dry now. That sounds like it could be a real bass. Or a really good bass patch. On the offbeat. Ooh, I like this. This is my favorite song on the album so far. And what? We're on track 5. If I like every song from here on out, boy, that's going to be kind of weird, but I hope I do. Back to the guitar. Now, I will point out here, the kick and the snare have not been massive in this song. It could have been. The last song with that trap beat, I would say the kick felt pretty massive. But in this song, it could have sort of come in and hit harder, but it didn't, being reserved so far. But OneRepublic really likes to make it feel like their songs build. Some of their songs. Okay. Love it. You know someone else that OneRepublic has always reminded me of a little bit? Toby Mac. If you're unfamiliar with Toby Mac, I recommend looking him up. He is a Christian artist, and I know a lot of people do not enjoy Christian music. And I think, in my opinion, worship music is just the absolute worst genre of music of all time. It's awful. But there are some really, really, really good Christian artists that definitely should not be overlooked, and Toby Mac is one of those, and his more modern albums have this kind of a feel. I'm loving this. We got piano now, and just some palm muted guitar in the back too. But again, dry vocals. Oh, only 2 choruses there. That song was too short. Not my favorite song anymore. It needed more. That was only 2/3 of a song. Ooh, huge kick there to start it off. Now it's been a lot more subdued. Oh, maybe it wasn't just the kick. Some organ. Very cool bass. And again, the low frequencies are coming from the bass. Oh, nice tambourine there. Like, the kick and the snare are not massive. And I absolutely cannot express how much I respect them for not having these massive drums, which are so present in everything, which I love massive drums. But to me, this all just feels different because it's not just exploding your ears with the drums, with the kick or the snare, and just having these massive kick sounds. They're not doing that. They're letting the rest of the song breathe around it. Nice. More sort of reverby screams in the background. Very interesting there. That was a sort of a frequency sweep on some sort of an element there with a vocal thing on the top of it. Very cool. Sort of like an organ almost, it sounds like. that bass that's just so constant. Ooh, there's some sub-frequency bass sub-frequencies. Yeah, I love that that organ sound. Very cool. And the snare almost non-existent, just claps right now. Very wide. And I know I was joking around earlier about the cymbals, but I haven't heard a cymbal in this song yet. We're on track 7. Little frequency build here. Frequency sweep up. Man, the bass sounds really good. It feels good. Thick, but not like overly so, and it's not really competing with anything. This song definitely has some sidechain compression on it with the bass, but it's still nice, still consistent. Hearing some guitar off to the left. This is Take Care of You. So now knowing that this album is very much electronic with some other elements of the band coming in and going out, that makes me wonder about the next album. Maybe they're going to do a whole album with like an orchestra or something. That'd be really cool. But I would like it if they did a whole album as a rock band. I think that'd be cool. I'm not saying they have to like be a metal band or be extremely heavy or anything, but it'd be kind of neat to see what they would do with that. And sometimes for some artists, setting limitations and restrictions actually forces them to be creative in ways they haven't been in maybe for a while. And I could see that could maybe benefit someone like Ryan, who has literally everything in the entire music industry at his fingertips. But he's obviously using all of those different assets and people and techniques that he's learned from over the years to perfection here, because this all sounds great. Love it. AWOL Nation, another band I was going to mention. For a while, AWOL Nation and OneRepublic were sounding kind of similar with what they were doing, but AWOL Nation has gone off in their own direction, and I really, really, really enjoyed their last album a lot. There were actual metal moments on that album, but it's interesting to see how these two people, Aaron Bruno with AWOL Nation and Ryan Tedder with OneRepublic, have how they move and then diverge in their paths and whatnot. It's interesting. I'm not saying that they're connected in any way or anything, but there have been songs that Ryan wrote before that I thought, this sounds very much like an AWOL Nation song, and vice versa. Thank you. Thank you for not just ending the song there. I can't tell you how much I hate it when a song feels incomplete to me. Cool. Ending it on the tom hits there. Forgot About You. You know, this right away, this sounds like it could be a Maroon 5 song. Very much a modern vocal rhythm. And then it has a half tempo feel. Very dry, sort of where the snare hit would be very dry, sort of a electronic snare. Oh. Oh, cool. Oh, I love. Love the vocal harmonies there. Oh yeah. Ooh, I hope this is one of their singles and on the radio. Because this would be a cool song to have on the radio. Ooh, oh, the tom fills so far in every song have been really cool. Low pass filtered, low pass strumming acoustic guitar with that sort of very dry electronic snare thing. So many electronic musicians, which this is an electronic album, people. It is. So many electronic musicians do not even know what tom fills are. And using it like this is really cool. Love it. A little bit more of the acoustic guitar in there, but still low passed. And if you don't know what I mean when I say low pass filter, what they're basically doing is you take the entire spectrum of frequencies from the lows to the highs, and if you put a high pass filter on it, it's sort of a gradual cutting off of all the low frequencies, so the high frequencies are passing through the filter. If you have a low pass filter, it's the reverse of the high pass. The low frequencies are passing through, and the higher frequencies are tapered off. And very common, one of the most basic forms of equalization that have been used since the beginning of EQ, but can be used to perfection here. And what it does is it can help make things feel, it emphasizes low frequencies rather than highs, or reverse, emphasizes highs rather than lows. Very, very, very tastily done here. This is great. This song is awesome. Very cool. That was a neat song. I was talking a lot. I don't know if they repeated the chorus 3 times, but I think they did. All right, track 9 we're already on. Holy cow. Somebody to Love. So this one, we're actually halfway through now, which is nuts. Somebody to Love. Let's see what it says here. So this one's got a lot of people. Written by Ryan Tedder, Brent Kutzel, J.T. Roach, Andrew Wells, I apologize if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, Jinte Ko, Esther Dean, Shane McNally, Andrew DeRoberts, Kevin Fisher. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people co-wrote this song. Gosh, that massive low. Love it. Now, this song, it says, has all instrumentation by OneRepublic, programming by Brent Kutzel, Ryan Tedder, Steve Wilmot, Andrew DeRoberts. Additional background vocals by John Nathaniel. Additional guitar by Andrew DeRoberts, Tyler Spry. Violin by Daniel Adams. Additional violin by David Davidson. Additional string arrangement by Brandon Collins. So we have strings on this song somewhere. Man, that low frequency, it is so hard to do things like that. Very cool. Guitar. Electric guitar. Man, that massive low note, so cool. Oh, that little pitch bend there. Down, very good. Cool. Track 10. Wanted. We're now on the second half of second column of songs. Insane. That very dry. Well, not dry. A much shorter reverb on it though. Panned very wide. Very cool. I love that. Building it up during the whole chorus there, letting it build, and then bring it back. See, now I'm actually hearing strings here. String arrangement, yeah. So there's actually strings on this one too, but I can actually tell that it's in the song this time. Oh yeah, very cool. Ooh. We double timed it. I didn't expect that. Too short. Could have gone back to the chorus another time and didn't. Bummer. Take It Out on Me. So that's two songs for sure that were 2/3 of a song. Piano here we have. Again, low pass filter on a lot of the stuff going on here. That vocal, oh yeah, in it. Oh, that's such a modern sounding thing. It's very much with the current times. Like it. So this is a ballad, one of the ballads. Very cool. If there's another one. Might be the only one, I don't know. cool, though. I wonder if anything else will come in here now that we're 2/3 of the way through the song. Hopefully it doesn't just end. Gonna build back up and add some different elements. Nope, only 2/3 of a song. All right. These guys can't finish a song either. Wonderful. Oh, very cool. A guitar that's discernibly guitar. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. Strummed acoustic. Oh, yes. Love the hip-hop vibes. Oh, this is great. That hip-hop beat was very cool. Massive chorus feel there. Yes. Oh, love it. The coolest verse on the album. I love it when the chorus comes in and the energy of the song goes down. And then it builds back into what's coming next. Okay, so apparently bridges in music are out. I don't want a bridge anymore in a music. Why have a third part to a song? Just write a verse and a chorus and, well, that's it. You don't need 2 parts for a song. Ridiculous. Man, that really is frustrating to me that this is the direction it appears music is heading. This is wildlife. A lot of like vocoder, pitch shifted low frequency vocals in the background here, spread very wide. Kind of ominous sounding. Sonically, I will definitely say this song sounds different thus far. Okay. That very cool. Panned a little bit, slightly left, slightly right to give it a feel. High note there. Interesting. A lot of low-pass filters on the whole album. They're back again here. Very cool strings. I assume that's a string. When you have an element like that that's chugging along like a train, but the rest of the song is just staying with it. And then you have the shaker. Oh, look, a song over 3 minutes long. Strings, more strings now on this side. Lush strings playing a little slower. Very nice. This is a very different sounding song from the rest of the album. And this song had some discernibly different parts to it, and it's fading out. Which is my least favorite thing in all of music. Track 14, starting out with a sample. Very nice. This is Ships. We're definitely into the bonus songs now. I'm definitely for sure can say that I definitely do not like this album as much as Oh My My. For sure. Ooh. That's so high. I'll be anything you like. I'm not a singer. But man, he gets it there. Love it. And then having the... Oh, that was nice. Very, very tasty background vocals there with the... The human voice... Just like any other acoustic instrument, you can definitely do things and be more expressive with it than you can with a synthetic. And you can do a lot of things to emulate things nowadays. So, you know, you can be a master electronic musician and still get all sorts of expressiveness out of, you know, the samples, the sounds that you're using. But there's just nothing that can ever substitute for the realness of the human voice. Very good melody in the chorus here. Very good. Oh, love it. Don't end the song there. See, now I'm second guessing everything. Normally I would think, okay, the song's going to come down a little bit here, and then it's going to get bigger again. It could just be the last word there, and... Okay, they are going to build it up again. All right. And I know I probably should be sitting here not trying to anticipate where the song's going as much, but that's kind of one of the things that I enjoy doing when I listen to music the first time. Piano, very nice. And this whole song. That still feels too short, that song. Okay, this is track 15. This is Tides. Strings, very different. Maybe this is just an acoustic song, or just an instrumental song. Ah, see this one, written by Brent Kutzel. So this might just be an instrumental song. Very cool if that's the case. Then we have 2 acoustic songs and 1 song that was a guest with Kygo, or whoever, however you pronounce that. Maybe this is an indication as to where they would go on their next album if they want to use more string arrangements. Maybe get some brass in there too and do some sort of orchestral thing, and then do a concert with a live orchestra. That would be amazing. Very cool that would be. Okay, so that was just a nice little an outrolude. All right, so now we have 2 acoustic songs. Let's see how this is going to work. So this is the first track of the album done acoustically. I do not hear an acoustic guitar recorded in stereo. I hear 2 or more acoustic guitar tracks recorded, and then 1 panned right, 1 panned left. And what that does is it leaves a little bit more room, a little bit more empty space, if you will, in the very middle of the mix. And that's where the vocals can sit. So it makes sense to me that Ryan and the guys would do it this way. So this might be a little bit more indicative of how they... Oh, now we got some stuff coming in. But this might be a little bit more indicative of how they write their songs in the very first place. Sit down with an acoustic guitar, write the song all out completely, go into the studio, record the guitar, record the vocals, then get rid of the guitar and add all sorts of different sounds to it. Some of it melodic, some of it rhythmic, some of it sound effect based, noise based, whatever. That's how music is done nowadays. Write the song however you want on the piano or guitar or whatever. Record a demo of it, then get rid of the music and then add in a lot of different rhythmic stuff. Okay, there we had a guitar in the middle for a second, acoustic guitar. It's nice to hear the little acoustic version at the end here. Run, run, run. Love it. Cool. Run, run, run. Run, run, run. Cool. That was a neat version of that. Now we have Someday acoustic. So now this is a mono acoustic guitar in the middle. Well, this could be stereo. Stereo recorded. I'm definitely getting some like clicks or pops on the sides a little bit, which is giving the stereo spectrum a bit more information. Don't know what that would be. And we have an additional guitar doing a harmony part on the right. Bass. Could be a real bass guitar. Don't know. I was wondering what they were saying during that part when I first heard the song, Won't We? Happy and won't we? Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. Very modern vocal run there. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. All those, like, shouts and expressions and whatnot in the back with just purely wet reverb. That is such a modern, current, of the time thing to do. Whoa, we pitch shift vocal back, very cool. Oh, nice little piano here then. Shaker in there as well. Cool. Okay, now the last track. Track 18, Lose Somebody with Kygo. I've heard of Kygo before, but I'm not sure if it's just an electronic artist or a singer or what it is exactly. So we'll see if we hear a different person singing. So far, this song definitely sounds like it could fit on this album, so it doesn't sound very different sonically or anything. Definitely a OneRepublic sounding song. I kind of thought this song might sound vastly different sonically. Lose somebody. That Lou? Very modern. I know I keep saying that, but what I mean by that is it's very contemporary. It's very of the current time. Okay, that doesn't sound like Ryan's voice. Love it. So far, no drums, really. Or no kick and snare, I guess. There's percussive elements going on. That does not sound like OneRepublic kick drum, from this album at least. Love it. Very uplifting album. And ending it with this song is nice. I want to see how long the album is total. We got 20 seconds left, about. Ooh, nice little violin there. Solo violin. That could have been 2 violin parts, but a dry, very obviously violin. Okay. Whole album is 53 minutes and 33 seconds. Okay. All right. That was Human by OneRepublic. Okay, so my first overall thought is that I enjoyed it. I liked it. I think it's maybe better than a couple of their other albums. I do think that almost none of the songs stood out to me as having like any sort of really defining characteristics from song to song. There were 2 songs where Ryan sang very high, and I know I mentioned at the very beginning there was that one song where he had the higher note that was a little bit like a lengthier note than it would need to be, and that was what made that song stand out. But sonically, the rest of the album was very similar. There weren't a lot of sounds that were being used that were different amongst the songs. Like almost all the songs just had this, and it's just kind of what current music is now. Just this sort of like mid-rangey soup of like frequencies moving around, creating like sort of like a bed. And then the vocalist is on top of it with a lot of reverb. And then there's just this drum beat over the top of it. And then this just massive sub-frequency bass. And that's basically the structure, not the structure, the sounds that make up a lot of contemporary pop music. And I'm a little disappointed that they didn't go back to being more of a band sound, but I can understand with OneRepublic being a pop band and Ryan being so, like I said, so deep into the pop world that of course a OneRepublic album is going to sound of the times. I like I said, I was hoping that it would sound more like a band playing songs, more akin to something like Matchbox 20 or something, as just an example. Matchbox 20 is a good example, I think, of a band that can use all of the elements of the core elements of a band. Guitar, drums, bass, vocals, and piano too. And they can have them sound like acoustic-based things that were recorded in a studio, in a space, and someone performed them live. But they can also have a whole electronic song, or, a lot of pop bands, do that kind of thing. But, and I will say there was a lot more guitar on this album, but the guitar was basically just taking the place of what would be some sort of like a synth part or something. Like it was all broken. Well, that's not true. There was some strumming acoustic guitar, but it wasn't ever a focal point at all. It was all background. The guitar that was there that I did enjoy was this sort of broken chord arpeggiated playing guitar parts. And that was nice. But it wasn't a featured part of any song. It was just sort of the underlying sound. As I mentioned, that sort of like soup, that sort of like synth pad soup that just sort of exists in the background of every song. When you have a guitar part playing an arpeggiated broken chord part and you have reverb and delay on it, it can help create that sort of soup. That's kind of, I know that's probably a weird way to describe it, and that's the first time I've ever used that term, but now that I said it, I like that a lot. The synth pad soup in the background, that's everything is just low passed at like 500 hertz, maybe a little higher, and there's just nothing else that's higher frequency in that soup that's creating that. And then what you do is you have a little bit of high frequencies in the vocals and the snare or any shaker or whatever you have. And that's where the high frequencies come from, the crispness, if you will. Though there was really nothing in any of those mixes that sounded crisp to me. But everything did sound like it fit exactly where it needed to in the mix. So I definitely think the mixes were very good. I'm disappointed with the length of the songs and the lack of bridges in some of them, or almost a lot of them. That just must be where music is going. And that's really disappointing to me, and I'm not going to harp on it because I talk about that a lot in my other videos. As I said, you can go watch my Spirit Box review for that, or my Zeromancer album, Orchestra of Knives reaction/review as well. Because what Zeromancer did was they structured their songs verse, chorus, and then sort of like an instrumental verse, and then the chorus, and then that was pretty much it. So it's basically verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Here we have a little bit of an intro, and then maybe starting with the chorus, verse, chorus, verse, done. Or a lot of the songs that did have a third chorus, this song would start with the chorus, then go to the verse, chorus, verse 2, chorus out. So that's, at least you're doing the chorus 3 times there. But several of the songs were basically just verse, chorus, done. And that is just, I hate that. I cannot stand that. It's just like when you're reading a book or something, you want there to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the end is only satisfying if the beginning was used to establish the characters, and the middle was used to sort of tear the characters and everything away from what they know, so that during the finale, the third part, the end, everything comes back around and there's a conclusion and a feeling of satisfaction when you're left, when you're done. Well, when you write a song that's just verse, chorus, there's no journey to go on there. It's just verse, chorus, and it's done. What the bridge does is it serves as that sort of tearing you away from what's already been established, giving you something different for a little bit so that you feel like you're coming home when the chorus comes back in again the last time. You feel like you're being introduced to something new, and then something familiar and something safe comes back, and that's where you get this feeling of satisfaction. That's where you get the feeling of resolve and the feeling of having the song just be resolved and done. When a song is just a part and then another part and then that first part again and then that second part again and then it's done, it doesn't feel like a complete song to me. It feels like a hip hop song that they had one cool sample that they built the entire song out of, and then they just faded the song out because they didn't know how to end the sample, if that makes sense. And that's not a dig on hip hop music. I like a lot of hip hop music a lot, but a lot of hip hop music, like mixtapes and things like that, they'll do that. They'll just have like this cool little beat for a while, rap over it, and then the song's done. And it doesn't feel like a song. It feels like a musical idea or a musical thought that just wasn't finished. It wasn't completed. And that's what it feels like to me when you have a song that only has 2 sections to it and not that third section that I feel is integral to a song. So that's all I'm going to say about that and my disappointment of that. That really brings this album down a couple notches for me. Apart from that, though, like I've already said, I was hoping this album would have a little bit more of a band feel, and it didn't, and that didn't surprise me, but it does leave me a smidge disappointed. It does make me look forward to their next album, whatever they're going to do in the future, because he specifically mentioned in the liner notes, let us experiment some. I think this album is different from Oh My My in the fact that Oh My My was definitely a lot more like extending out onto the end of the branch to see if it can support your weight. That's maybe a weird analogy, but Oh My My to me felt like they were trying to do something that sounded contemporary, but there were little things that they did that surprised me and that I felt like were taking some risks. There was no risks taken whatsoever on this album, on Human at all. No risks were taken. I'm not saying that they necessarily played it safe, but really, basically, they did. I mean, it just sounds like OneRepublic songs, and every song sounds very similar to the last song. So I am disappointed in that regard. Now, with all of that said, we're October now, at the end of October. So I have 2 months to listen to this album before I have to make my top 12 albums of the year list, which is something I do on my channel every year and have been doing for a decade now. Something I look forward to very much, and it's something that's always on my mind when I'm listening to an album for the first time and subsequently throughout the rest of the year. So this album I could definitely see being an album that I put in my car, drive around, listen to, and I just start to enjoy it more. And the more I listen to it, maybe the more I would be able to separate the different songs and have ones that I enjoy, ones that I don't enjoy, whatever. And this is an easily digestible album, I guess. You know, the last reaction I did was to Frost's new album, the progressive electronic band Frost. That could not be as well. It could be more different, but that album is a chunky, meaty album that takes a while to digest. It's a very hearty album, whereas this is, again, and I understand that's what it's meant to be. It's just pop music, but this album is popcorn. It's just, you eat it. It's very small, short, and done, and you don't necessarily have to think about it again. That to me is not what OneRepublic's music was before, though. Like, they definitely had moments where some of their stuff was kind of like eye roll, like, come on, really? You're going to be that cliche? But then they would always have songs that were like shockingly different on their albums, and they would do things in their pop songs that other pop bands or pop artists wouldn't necessarily do or couldn't do because they would be too afraid to take that risk. And this album didn't have any of that, at least that I noticed right now. Like I said, there was definitely a bit more of like a trap influence on, I think, 2 of the songs. That was kind of nice. There were more sparse moments with like a drum beat over it, which is what I was sort of alluding to at the beginning with my Lorde and Billie Eilish sort of comparisons and whatnot. But then just having that sort of that synth pad soup that just kind of was there the whole time, and then having the like happy vocals over the top of it. Every single vocal was affected out the wazoo. Every vocal had all sorts of every effect you could throw on a vocal, they had on every single vocal. The stereo vocal, the vocals were spread out stereo, like the background vocals were stereo mixed, wide, you know, to make it feel nice. But everything was so perfectly pitched and layered and all this stuff that what happened was you almost lost the human element, which is really interesting and ironic that the album was called Human. So on one hand, I definitely think this is the most safe and pop album that OneRepublic has made. But on the other hand, like I said, it was very easily digestible. This I could throw in the car and just listen to any track, and it would probably make my day a little bit brighter. And over time, maybe if I listen to the album more, I'll get into it. But as a first listen, it leaves me wanting. So disappointing in that regard. I think the production was great. The oversaturation of the autotune is there again on this album. So now I'm starting to question whether or not Ryan can actually sing at all. And maybe they were just using autotune and other effects like Melodyne and whatnot on their previous albums and trying to hide it a little bit more, even though it was definitely there, you know, on something like Counting Stars and whatnot. But the last 2 albums have definitely felt less human, which I feel is ironic considering that that's the title of the album. So what am I left with? I'm left with a excitement to see what is next for the band, and I'm left with an album that may still make it into my top 12 albums of the year, but I've got to listen to it more, and I've got to see if any of the songs can separate themselves from the pack, and if anything jumps out on me when I listen to this again. And if not, then it will just be another good album that I can listen to when I want to maybe feel a little bit better if I've had a rough day, but there's really nothing that stands out to me very much at all. So, with that being said, I'll just wind the video down here and say thank you very much for watching. One thing I was going to say at the beginning, but I've saved now till the end, is just to point out my awesome pumpkins that I bought here. Last year when I first started my channel, which was a little bit about a year and a month ago, I had some pumpkins and squash and stuff in the background of my videos, and those gourds and squash and pumpkins and whatnot all came from this pumpkin patch that I go to with my sister and my nephew every year. And we went there this year, and these are the ones that I found, and I think that they are really, really cool. And I'm really glad that I found them, and I think that they are probably the 4 coolest, most badass pumpkins in the United States. If you have a pumpkin that you think is cooler, feel free to drop me a picture or send me a link or something in the comments. I don't know. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. As always, go out, find new music, and share it with as many people as you can, because that's what we're all here to do, share music. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Now I will fade into the distance. Ooh.